Very good morning to all. I, Dr. Vandana Nikam, convener of Institution Innovation Council SKNCOP, welcome you to all for the third and last session of the lecture series, which is organized in this week on innovation, incubation, and startup. The Startup India initiative of government intended to catalyze and build a strong ecosystem for promoting innovation and startup culture as a part of education system. Such a drive would encourage sustainable economic growth and will create a large employment opportunities and in turn self-sufficiency. So today SKNCOP Innovation Ambassador Dr. Aishwarya Deshmukh's talk on startup would help you to understand the system and mechanism of it in detail. So not taking much of your time, I request Dr. Deshmukh to take the charge of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Deshmukh, madam.
Thank you so much, Vandana madam. A very good morning to all the delegates, all the participants, my fellow colleagues and the dear students. I welcome you all for this third session, third lecture series on the startup. And I will share my screen with you. Just let me know when you can see my screen and then we will start. I hope my voice is not breaking, right?
Yeah, it is very clear. No issue.
Yeah.
Only,
yes. Yeah. Thank you. I have shared my screen. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
yes. Could you please
Yeah.
put it in a PowerPoint mode?
Yeah, I have already put it on the PowerPoint mode only. Can't you see? Can you see, ma'am?
Yeah. Now it is visible. Okay, you can go
Yeah,
ahead.
maybe
Yeah.
there is some. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. So once again, good morning. As I've told you that will be discussing about the startup, right? So first of all, let us take the definition of what is startup. As we have know that Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi, he has launched the Startup India in 2016, and after 2016 there has been three times amendments in the definition only. So as per the latest GSR 127E, which was released in the Gazette of India on 19 February 2019, the definition of startup is an entity which is incorporated or registered in India, and it can be a private limited company under the Companies Act 2013, or it can be a registered partnership firm under the Indian Partnership Act 1932, or it can be a limited liability partnership under the Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008. This is the first criteria. Second is that 10 years must not have elapsed before you could incorporate this startup, and it should not exceed 100 crore rupees as the turnover in any preceding financial year. So these are the first three criteria for the startup. Along with that, in the definition they have told that the startup must be working towards the innovation, development, deployment or commercialization of the new products, processes or services driven by technology and intellectual property. Along with this, they have also added in the definition, which was amended in 2019, that any startup should have a immense potential for not only wealth creation but also employment generation. So these are the five criteria for you to get recognized as a startup. The next point in the definition of startup is that such entity should not be formed by mere splitting off or reconstruction of a business which is already in existence. So if you are already in the market as a business, you'll not be able to consider yourself as a startup. This is the second point. Third is that any entity whatsoever is, it will no more be considered as startup under two criteria: if in any preceding financial year the turnover exceeds the 100 crore rupees, or if you complete 10 years from the date of incorporation and registrations. So this is the next criteria. And if you are a startup, you will be eligible for benefits which will be obtained after certification from interministerial board, which is set up for that particular purpose. So this is actually the technical definition of the startup. But before you could, we could discuss what is a Startup India campaign, what is the eligibility criteria for you to be recognized as a startup, or what are the benefits that you will get under the startup, or else what are the legal and financial requirements for you to establish in the market as a new company or as a startup. Let us look at the whole life cycle of a startup. We know that the life cycle of the startup, it has these four important phases. One is the launch, yeah, and first is the conception, that is conceptualization of your idea. Second is the launch, then you grow as a company, as a startup, and then you mature to something which is known as the giant company. So these are the four phases in the life cycle of any startup. But if you want to really understand the technicalities of these four phases, it is very important to understand these 6 points that I have enumerated here. First is the inspiration, second the knowledge, third the environment, fourth problem, fifth is market, and sixth is the MVP. Let's start with the first, that is inspiration. See, every startup, it starts or begins with an idea. Okay, this is a big world and everyone is having great ideas, and these ideas, they have this element of unpredictability. However, it is the nature of innovation. And if you see the drive to create something new, it is already in our genetic makeup, because if you see around and you look around, you will observe that we are surrounded by things they were not existing before, but yes, now we are able to use these things, we are able to access these things. So the thing is that idea generation and having a pool of ideas with you is really the starting point for any startup. But having only the ideas will not make. You have to pick the good one, which is known as the idea validation. So second comes the idea validation, wherein you gather the evidences around the idea through experimentation to make something which is a fast, informed, and de-risked decision. So idea validation, it usually starts coming up with an idea and typically ends giving you a paying customer. So if your idea has got that potential, then obviously you will end with having customers who will be ready to pay amount of money for your product, service, or the processes, right? Whatever your startup is all about. Idea validation is also important, because when you validate the idea, what you do is you expose your idea to the practicality of the real world, right? And when you expose your idea to the practicality of the real world, you are not only going to decrease the risk, but also you will able to create and design and ultimately launch value creating business in the market, which will make you sustainable, which will make you remain established for a very long period of time. So not only idea, but idea validation is very crucial at the initial phase, when you are at the nascent stage and you are just thinking of some startup. Next point is that where do these ideas come from? Is it just a flash of insight? Is it very random or unorganized, or methodological or non-methodological, or just an arbitrary notion of thought? If you ask me, the answer is no, because your idea can't be a random flash of insight. The reason behind is that if you just check the spectrum of the human activities, you will observe that it is having a abundant amount of the prior art, and this prior art is actually propelling the creativity process. Now, what is this prior art? Prior art means all the information, all data, all statistics, all facts and figures that are already in the public domain. You can freely access it, you can understand it, and based on these prior art or the information which is available in the public domain, you get something new, something innovative, something out of the box. So, prior art is very important for you to understand in the initial phase. And moreover, when you think about starting up, startup or building a startup in a one go is not a catwalk at all. There are few examples with us who are lucky enough, like Zuckerberg, who was able to succeed in the one go. But most of these startup founders or entrepreneurs, if you see, they struggle for quite a few years before they could spread their wings and transfer into something which is known as a giant company. So why prior art and scrutinizing this prior art is essential is the reason, because you want to learn from the success and, more importantly, the failure stories of the evolving startup, which would help you to gear up, to gird up and to conceptualize the idea, and to come up and have the guts to launch the startup. So it's not a flash of insight. Okay, it is something which is dependent upon the information that is available with you. When you see these entrepreneurs, or when you see these startup founders, they have some basic qualities. Not only that, they have a very different approach to look at any problem, and that is probably what separates them from rest of the people, right? And these entrepreneurs, they have the habit of learning day by day. They progress and they improve day by day. They level up each day, and they know how and when to take the calculative risks. They also realize that sometimes to achieve something big, it is really important that and it is mandatory for you to incur small losses. So they have a very good appetite of risk taking. First thing. Second thing, these entrepreneurs or these startup founders, they know that if they want to master the art of multiplication. Now, what is this art of multiplication? It is a buzzword, it is a word, business word. It means that taking up your startup from 10 to thousands to millions to billions. Okay, so this art of multiplication is only possible if you take continuous feedback, when you continuously work on the feedbacks that have been given to you by your potential customers, and you day by day you improvise the services and the products. That is the reason why I had kept the picture of this gentleman, and he is Mr. Thomas Alva Edison. Every one of us knows him. He is considered as America's greatest inventor, not because he was mere inventor, but because he was a great businessman. You would be surprised to know that he died in 1931, but he had the record of 1093 number of patents on his name, and this record was unbreakable for 30 years after his death. So in 1960, till 1960, he was the world's #1 patent holder, and he actually conceptualized the ideas into something, some big businesses. That is the reason why he is considered as a greater inventor and a greatest businessman. And the same person, Thomas Edison, has told that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. But this 1% inspiration really matters, and that is the reason why the first point that we have discussed is being inspirational, or gaining inspiration from anything, or having the passion to follow your inspiration. Next is the knowledge, creativity, and environment. So all these three phenomena, they go hand in hand. They are interrelated with each other. By now we know, these ideas are not just flashes of insight. They grow and evolve. It means that you have to first plant the seeds. Okay, and the seeds for the ideas are the knowledge. So these skills, all the skills that you have, you can only gain with the knowledge, right? When you have a set of skills, set of knowledge, it actually helps you in achieving everything you want, provided that you have a really conducive environment wherein your ideas can flourish, and you can end up with having a good startup, right? So this is how knowledge and environment are related to each other. Let me also tell you that in context to startup, when we talk about the knowledge, there are these two broad categories of knowledge that every one of us can have. I mean, the startup founders can have. One is the business knowledge and second is the technical knowledge. Now, if suppose you are more deeper on the business side, I mean, you have a business mind, but you might be lacking in the technical knowledge, then what happens is that you are good in business, but you have a technology stack. Okay, you have a deficiency in the technological maybe knowledge or information. However, frankly speaking, customers never bother about what is the technological stack of the founder. They just want that whatever is given, whatever product or service are given to the customer, they should work in the way they are supposed to work. And this is the reason there are many non-technical entrepreneurs. They have also succeeded in some technical based businesses, right? And it is just like, when money comes in, they can anyways sort out the technical deficits or the technical lackings that they have in the business. And if suppose you are on the second side, that is yeah, so if you are on the second side, that is if you have technical knowledge, the case which we come into, right? So if you have technical knowledge, obviously your business knowledge will be lacking. In that case, you have to be little flexible, not little flexible, you have to be more flexible. Why? Because you don't completely understand the business and you have jumped into the business. So it's very important that when you start to work with the customers, you interact with them, you get to know what are the expectations of the customers, and then according to the customers requirement, you will evolve, you will pivot your applications in such a way that these objectives will be fulfilled. So customers get satisfied even if you don't have the business knowledge, but you have the technical knowledge or the technology knowledge, right? So both of these knowledge, the business knowledge or the technical knowledge, both are important. See, every one of us can't be master in both the knowledges, but even having one type of knowledge is sufficient to go for startup. Next is the creativity. uh, when we talk about the creativity, we have just you have attended a previous sessions in which they told you is that creativity is the process in which you convert something which is intangible into something which is tangible, right? So that is creativity. And if you just see frankly what is creativity, the basic elements of creativity is copy, because you already have the prior art. Then you transform into something which will be different from the existing knowledge, existing data, existing information, and then you combine different technology, different processes, different principle, and what you get is the creativity. Many of us, we have many ideas but we don't act on them. So if you have ideas but you are not able to act on them, yes, you are imaginative but you are not creative. So for being creative, it is really very important for you to not only have the ideas but to actually act on them so that it can be commercialized, which is again one of the criteria in the startup. But then people might think that what will happen if I'm not creative enough? Can creativity be learned? The shortest answer is yes, you can learn the creativity. How you can learn the creativity is start associating, start connecting the dots, start to relate different problems, different ideas, different queries of unfamiliar or entirely different type of fields. So association, connections, and trying to build a whole pattern out of the unrelated things is what is known as the associating. So you have to train your brain likewise. Next is questioning. always ask questions, post your queries, which is going to challenge the common wisdom. So when you question, you get more knowledge. Next is try to observe the behavior, try to scrutinize the behavior of the customers, right, of all the stakeholders, or might be the distributors of your business, or some investors which are there in the market. So when you observe them, when you try to understand their pattern of working, when you scrutinize these informations, you will get to know how the things can be done in different ways. So observing will also increase your creativity. And next important point is networking and experimenting. And networking and experimenting means, you should meet new people, you should try to know their ideas, you should try to know their perspectives, and try to construct a very very interactive experience. And you try to provoke some unorthodox, mark my words, I'm saying the unorthodox responses from them. So when you have associating, questioning, observing, networking and experimenting, when you club all of them, you become more and more creative. So can creativity be learned? Yes, creativity can be learned. And for being an entrepreneur, for being a startup founder, you have not only to have the knowledge, but you also have to be really very creative. When I say it is creativity, it means that you will act on the ideas which you have already validated, right? You have a number of ideas, and from that idea you have validated the good one, the ideas which have the potential to get converted into a commercialized business, right? Next is this slide. I think you will be very much able to relate these two slides which you can see here. These are the ideas, they are scattered. You have an n number of ideas of different type of fields, but then creativity and knowledge are having very specific characteristics, wherein you can see the world with a new perspective. You can you can find these hidden patterns, you can connect the dots, and you can correlate seemingly unrelated phenomena, and come up with a sustainable, permanent and useful solutions. Because startup is all about solving the problems, and when you solve a problem with the help of the startup, that solution should not be a temporary, but rather it should be permanent, it should have sustainability, and it should also be very useful for the public in general. Because although the main objective of the startup can be earning the money, okay, you want to start the startup because you want to earn the money, that is fine. But when you think of starting up, it is very important to broaden your perspective, and you think that not only I should be able to earn money, but my product, my processes, my services should be good enough to at least solve the problems of the public in general. So this is how the knowledge, creativity and the environment, conducive environments are interrelated. Without it, you can't start up, right? Next is the problem. Problem means identification of the problem and validation of the problem. Again, you had idea and idea validation. Likewise, you next have the problem and the problem validation. So now what is the problem identification and validation? See, when you think of a startup, you first have to start working on existing uh, problem, an authentic problem, and the problem which a significant number of people are suffering from. Okay, they are dealing with this problem. So a significant amount of people, they are dealing with this problem. Why? Because you want to generate something which will be scalable for the masses, right? That is the reason why a type of problem which is definite and which you need to solve, that problem identification is the first step. Second is that you also need to understand that if you don't select a problem, a specific problem, then why would the customer pay you for something which is not bothering them at all? Customers will not pay you a penny if they don't find the problem very bothersome, or they don't find the problem very you know uh, problematic or irritating. That is the reason why proper problem identification is really very important. And then you have to validate the problem. When we say validation of the problem, it means that you have to work on these problem statements, like what is the real problem. Okay, since we are discussing the whole session in context to the startups, you also need to understand what is the government doing in that particular problem. If you just visit the Startup India website, there is a web page wherein the government of India has enlisted all the existing problems that our India is right now currently facing, and they have also given the names of the ministries who are working in that particular region or that particular problem, and what are the existing solutions for the problem, and what are the drawbacks or what are the shortcomings of shortfalls of these particular solutions that are right now available. I mean, they are available, right? So what is government doing, that is also very important, because in the startup you are going to collaborate with the government, frankly speaking. So if you want to collaborate with the government, you should have a keen watch on what government is doing, and how government, which problems does government really think worth to be solved on priority basis. So that is the reason why when you validate the problem, you have to see what government is doing in that particular context. Next is you have an idea. You have already validated it. It means that you have already conceptualized the idea, the first phase of the life cycle of the startup, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, so am I audible? Hello?
Yes, yes, you are quite audible.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, fine. What we were talking about is, you have already surpassed the first stage of the startup life cycle, that is conception. So you have an idea, but what you have to think, what you have to think is that, is your idea and innovative enough and will be a major problem solver for the society? You also have to validate in that context, right? Next is that if the the answer to this question is yes, you will have to find what further can you do, what are your limitations, up to what extent you are able to risk whatever you have for the startup. So this is the next process of validation. Next point is that when you are willing to do something for yourself, for your startup, it is also required for you to think how hard can you work smartly to make your idea scalable for the masses. Just now I have told that if you have a product, a service or process which is only limited for some few numbers of customers, then you might be able to start the startup, but you will not be able to have a sustainable market. You have to get yourself established in the market, right? So for that you require really a very large number of customers. So you have to scale your business. So you have to make sure that this problem, when you will solve this problem, will have a scalable market for the masses. And then you also have to think how will your ideas help in general to the public. And lastly, you just have to have a very keen watch on which are the concerned ministries. You have to get the information of the SOPs of these concerned ministries, how they work, what are the legalities of these working, and what are the other information that you should know before you could start up. So concerned ministries information is also something which is to be validated. When you validate the problem. So when you get the answers to all these questions, you are ready to explore the markets. That is the reason why next comes the market. Okay, so market means market analysis, right? So when we say talk about the market analysis, we are literally talking about only the customers, because you know customers will make you or break you. So market analysis is all about the customers, because the market will change according to the customers, right? In the market analysis, what you do is you confirm the viability and sustainability of the startup that you are planning. Confirming the viability, how viable is your startup, it will be eventually, and whether your idea of the startup is sustainable enough in fluctuating market environments, yes or no. So it will give you a idea and confirmation when you perform the market analysis. When you do market analysis, it also helps you to understand what are the other competitors who are also working in the same portfolio that you are planning for. What are the things that will set you apart from these competitors, or what are the USPs of your startup that you can market, or you can sensitize the customers about. So when you do the market analysis, you get to know the information about the competitors, which will do nothing but help grow your startup. So this is the next objective of doing market analysis. One of the critical function that entrepreneurs do is calculating the size of the market. Entrepreneurs are required to calculate the size of the market, not only the size of the market, but the potential value that the market has for your product or service. Until and unless you get this data about the size of the market and the potential value, you would not be able to make a viable business plan, nor will you be entertained by potential investors. Because see, whenever investors are investing, they are helping you because they are providing you money, but at the same time they also think that they want to grow, they want to grow monetarily or financially. So that is the reason why when you want to approach with the investors, you have to have a perfect market analysis. You should be able to calculate the exact size of the market and what will be the potential value that the market will create for the product or the service or the process that you are going to plan to launch. Apart from the size of market and the potential value, there are some parameters that comes in the market analysis, and they are much into the business. They're much into the business terms. We'll just take a glimpse of what they are. First is the TAM, okay, total addressable market. Second is the SAM, serviceable available market, and third is potential active use, that is PAU. Now what is the difference between these three terms? Because market analysis also includes determining these three parameters. So if I tell you about the total addressable market, it means the total available market, the market that will be available, and that market is a global total, I'm saying, okay, the global total of the revenue generation opportunity that your startup will have. It is in the reference to the whole global scenario, and it does not consider the competition or any other constraint. So total addressable market does not consider the competitors. Theoretically it might be valid or say correct, but practically it is invalid, it is incorrect, because practically it's never possible that you have a startup and you don't have a competitor. You'll always have competitors, right? So you have to add all these constraints. So what are the constraints you have to think of? Maybe the competitors will be one of the constraints, right? Then you can expect some stakeholders, you can expect some problems in the distribution channels, because you manufacture something here and you want to transport it to some other country, some other region, then yeah, distribution channel might sometimes pose you a constraint, right? Then there are some processing problems, okay, during the production, during the manufacturing. Then there are some problems with the funding disbursements. I mean, you have the fund but you are not able to use it, or you don't have the fund when you require it, right? And you might have some team related problem. You don't have selected a proper team. So all these constraints, they will reduce the market size to something which is known as serviceable available market. So the actual market that you are going to launch your startup into, which is going to generate the revenues for you, is the serviceable available market. So you have to subtract this the constraints, and then you get the actual available market for you to flourish. And apart from that, once you launch the product, right, and then people start using, or customers start using your product, then it's not the end, because you don't want to have profit only in the first year or when only you launch the product, but you want to be there in the market for years. And then that is the reason why you also have to find out what are the potential active use. Potential active use means those customers which will remain your customers for years. Let's see, I'll give you a simple example of Parle-G. Parle-G doesn't require any advertisement, but still it is a brand because it has done a perfect market analysis. So in the market analysis, what you do is you calculate the size of the market, you see the potential value of your business, you also try to find out the TAM, SAM and potential active users, so that when you finally launch your product, you can expect a very long life of your company or of your venture, right? See, there are different market sizing techniques. I mean, you can research your competitors and you can get an idea. There are some ad targeting tools which you can use for marketing the product and seeing what responses you are getting. You can also find a community who will say only goody things about your startup, and then you can do some good old research. When you do all the market analysis and when you scrutinize all the data, you should be able to answer all these questions which are written in the lower panel of the slide. Who are the potential customers? What are the potentials buying habits? Okay, how large is the target market? How much are the potential customers willing to pay you, right? Who are the competitors and what are the competitors' strength and weaknesses, right? So this is about the market analysis. After the completion of market analysis, you can have a kickstart to launch your startup, to launch your product or process or service. And there comes the role of MVP. What's the full form of MVP? It is the minimum viable product. Okay, MVP means the minimum viable product. So minimum viable product is it's one of the part of product development cycle. We also call it as the proof of concept, right? So in the B language we call it as a MVP, minimum viable product. So what is MVP? It's a product which is having enough basic features, okay, to attract the early adopter customers and validate the product idea early in the product development cycle. So you have a product which is having a basic features, not very advanced features, basic general features, and then you will identify some potential first user or the potential customers, and then you will validate the product, or you will confirm the proof of concept by giving these customers your basic product, and you will take a feedback from them. When you get the feedback from them, you will actually do all the corrections, do all the manipulations, do all the improvisations, and you will finally launch the product. So it is quite wiser if you first go for the proof of concept. You have a prototype ready, do the proof of concept, and then once you get the feedback, you just launch your final product, so that final products will not have any lackings or will not have any drawbacks, right? So when we talk about the minimum viable product, they have these three distinct features. First feature is that whatever product, process, service you are going to launch, it should have basic features such that at least the customers, the first users, they should be ready to purchase your product. Okay, it should not like that they don't have any future and you want to feature and you don't and you want to sell it. No, you have to have the basic features. The customers will purchase that product, and then there should be a system of feedback mechanism wherein the customers or the consumers will use and provide you the feedback about the product. Okay, once you get the feedback from the customer, your marketing team, your research team, your management team will work on these feedbacks and will launch the final product. So final product is only launched once you get the feedback from the first users. This is the second feature, sorry. Third is that it should also have enough future benefits for customers who adopt the product first. I'm taking your product for the first time. I mean, nobody is taking, I'm taking, so I should get some benefit. That is the reason why generally companies, when they launch the final product, they will give some type of discount or some kind of concession to these first consumers. So this is how a minimum viable product is launched, so that you can launch the final product. If you see this if you see this graph, this is the life cycle of startup. It begins with the idea here, right, and it ends when you get you get a mature stable business, right, and between this comes the proof of concept of or our MVP. So when there is a transition from the idea to the mature stable business, this is something which all of us think about. So it's a straight line. So but this is not the actual view. This is a very naive view. If you actually see a more realistic view of the product development, then it is something like this. It will look something like this. You can see many troughs and crests from the idea till the proof of concept, because MVP is doing the same thing, and MVP is taking the feedbacks and taking the it is doing the trial and errors, and they are improvising step by step. And after this, you can launch your product. You will have a mature stable startup. So this is a more realistic view of the product development. And in this competition of trial and error world, the one who finds the error fastest and rectifies the error fastest will win. So this is the realistic view of the minimum viable product or the proof of concept, which is the next step in the life cycle of the startup, right? With this, we have completed the first part, right, of our discussion. So if I tell you what is the equation of the startup, it is the new business with an innovation or innovative element, which you can use with some type of technology, or it should be technology based, and you should have the inspiration or passion to start something of your own for the benefit of nation as a whole. So this is the equation of a startup. With this, we have completed the first part. Second part is that this word you very well I mean, you're aware of this particular word, disruption. We have been talking about disruptive innovations. We have been talking about the disruptive technologies, right? So what is this disruptive innovation, and why we require to discuss here is because of the fact that in the Startup India, government recommends that use disruptive technologies for your startup, which will help you to recognize yourself as a startup. So that eligibility criteria, which we'll be seeing in the next few slides, for that you will require some type of disruptive technology in your startup, right? So what is this disruptive innovation or technology? It's a process in which some product or process or service, it gains fame, it gains high acceptability, and so much of high acceptability that it can literally replace or displace or even root out the existing conventional product, process and services. Okay, it has that ability. And disruptive technology, they have an immense potential not, these disruptive technologies, they not only provide you a altogether new market, okay, but they also provide you a altogether new business model. So you can have a very different new type of novel type of business model. You can have new novel type of whole market growth. Not only that, they will also help you in bolstering the visibility of your business. You can more efficiently identify and reach the target audience, and you can provide a very personalized approach, which is next to impossible in the conventional products or services or the processes. That is the reason why in the Startup India also they are encouraging the disruptive technology, the use of disruptive technology, because startup, when we talk about startup, it is just not it should not be limited to the local, but it should be global. And when we talk about manufacturing, our prime minister had said go local, but when we want to tell people, or we want to get recognized amongst the people, it should be global. So creating disruption is like very critical for the startup. These are the leading startups of India. There are many, but I could just accommodate few of them, like Swiggy or First Cry is from the Pune itself, so these are the startups. Earlier, so what is this disruptive technology? A little glimpse of it. Earlier we had taxis, now we have Ola, Uber. Earlier we had books, now you have Kindle. Earlier we used to go to some restaurants or resorts, now we have these Food Panda or Oyo rooms, right? As far as the pharmaceutical field is concerned, yeah, I want to give you some examples of the disruptive technologies and the startups that have been started in these 5 to 6 years. First is the generic Aadhaar, which you can see in the left hand upper panel, right? So this boy from Mumbai, his name is Arjun. He has started the generic Aadhaar, and he has a very peculiar distribution channel through which he procures the generic drugs from genuine validated, authenticated manufacturers all around India, and he cuts off the profit margin of wholesaler up to 20%. So wholesaler will never come in this business model. He will directly purchase. He's directly purchasing these generic medicines from the manufacturers, and these manufacturers, he has actually a collaboration with a list of genuine manufacturers, and that is the reason why he is selling the generic drugs in 80% reduced prices. At 80% reduced prices, he is selling the drugs. So 100 rupees drug he will sell for 20 rupees. Next, you can see Farm Easy. Farm Easy is the next startup in the pharmacy. It's an online pharmacy platform which was established. It's a Mumbai based pharmacy platform, and it was established by these two guys, which you can see here. Right now, in mere 6 years, okay, I mean 6 years, yes, they have achieved, and they have received a total grant of $328.5 million till date, and they are operating in more than 710 cities across our country. They have 150 partners. So this is how they have spread their startups, right? Next, you can see here, this is a recent one. I just got it some 4 or 5 days back. A person called Dr. Kumar, he has actually started one startup. The number of COVID patients is increasing day by day. We are having more than 3 lakh patients per day, and Maharashtra is suffering like anything. So there are shortage of beds, and what this person is doing is that if you don't get the bed in the hospitals for the COVID patients, he will set up the ICU at your home. And this particularly is only limited to the Mumbai region, but then yeah, it is a startup and it is having a disruptive technology. There are many, but let's not go into much into all. There is a company like Integral Bioscience. So it's again a pharma-based startup which gives the end-to-end integrative drug discovery related solutions. You have Elucidata, which works on the processing, analyzing, and scrutinizing of the omics data, that is proteomics and genomics. So these are again a startup which are based in the India. So with this slide, we come to, we have discussed what is disruptive technology and how this disruptive technology has really revolutionized the whole concept of the business, and how India is also having more and more startups day by day. This is the second part that we have completed of our discussion. Next, we are going to start the third the third part of our discussion, which is the Startup India. Okay, so Startup India it's a flagship initiative by the government of India. Okay, what's the objective of this Startup India? Is to boost the innovation and the startup, which will drive the economic growth. Not only the economic growth, but large scale employability will also get augmented. So this is the core objective behind this flagship initiatives that has been taken by our government of India. And they have also given the whole action plan how this Startup India will be executed, right? So when we talk about the startup, I have already given you the definition of the startup in the first slide itself. What should be the company age? Less than 10 years. What should be the type of the company? It should be either PLC or registered partnership firm, or it can be a LLP, which we call limited liability partnership. The turnover should not be exceeding 100 crore rupees. The entity should not be any splitting off or reconstructed. It should be a new company, and it should have something which is innovative and scalable. So this is what startup means. We have already discussed it, right? Now let us come to the Startup India campaign, right? So Startup India campaign is based on an action plan which is aimed at promoting the bank financing for startup ventures, to boost entrepreneurship and encourage the startup with job creations. This campaign was announced first by our honorable Prime Minister on his prime ministerial address on 15th August 2015, which was organized by DIPP. You have to remember this name, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, DIPP, because startup is looked after by this department, DIPP. There is another campaign which is also initiated by government, which is known as the Startup India. And the Startup India basically aims at promoting entrepreneurship among the SC and STs and women communities, but we are here more concentrating on the Startup India. So you have two campaigns, Startup India and the Stand Up India. In today's session, we are going to talk more and more about the Startup India. Hello, are we connected?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So let us take the quick analysis of for the eligibility criteria, right? Means how can I know whether my startup will really be recognized by the government as a startup or not? So what is it? First, it should be we know now, right? It should be either a PLC, it should be either a LLP or a partnership firm. If the answer to the question A is yes, then you have to see whether the age should not be more than 10 years of the startup. If it is again yes, the turnover is not exceeding 100 years. Okay, if it again is yes, then it should have the startup should develop something which is innovative, something which is having the disruptive technology, and it should have the potential to get commercialized. Undifferentiated product processes are not eligible for the startup. Even if you don't have a very high potential of commercialization, government will not entertain you, because government has to take care of 130 crore people who are living in this country. Everyone can say that I have a startup, I have an idea, but literally the government has to scrutinize the things. So it should have some innovative element. If again the answer is yes, then you have to get the approval from the DIPP department. Sorry, you have to get an approval from the DIPP. What approval you have to get? That your company is innovative, okay? And who is going to give you recommendation? Because you would require the recommendation, and that recommendation letter will tell the DIPP people, the department, that okay, his company is innovative. We can just see all the other eligibility criteria. If he fits in, you can recognize him or her as a, means his or her company as a startup. So who are going to give you the recommendation letters? So first, recommendation letter can be given by the incubators who are in the postgraduate Indian colleges. There are many IIM, IITs. Meenal madam has also talked about the incubators. So they can, they have the right to give you the recommendation letter based on your based on the strength of your business plan. Next is recommendation letter by the incubators who are funded by the GOI, okay, Government of India. So they are directly under government undertaking. Third is the recommendation letter by an incubator who is not funded by the Government of India, but they are recognized by the Government of India. So they also can give you the recommendation letter. The fourth option is that either incubation fund or angel fund or private equity fund or some angel networking organizations or some accelerators, okay, these also can give you recommendation, provided that they are funding your startup. If they are funding your startup, government thinks that okay, this startup should have a great potential, that is the reason why these people are investing money in his or her business. So that also helps you in getting approval from the DIPP. And last but not least, if you have a patent which is granted by the Indian Patent Office or a trademark office which is related to the business that you are planning to start, then also you are eligible to get approval from the DIPP. So you should meet the condition A, B, C, D, E, and any one of the F. So if it is, then you are a startup. So this is how you can analyze your startup, whether it is, I mean, will it be recognized as one or not. Let us see the action plan of the startup, right? I'm having a sore throat, sorry. So, let us see about the action plan of the startup. If you see the action plan, there are these three important areas across which the whole action plan has been designed. First is the hand holding or the support. Okay, so support and hand holding is the first area. Second is funding and incentives. So funding provisions and incentives is the second area. And third is the industry academia collaboration and incubation. So these are the three broad areas, and in context to these three broad areas, these are the action plans which you can see on the slide. Okay, first is self-certification. Now what is this self-certification? It means that you are not required to go to any office, any department with a heap of documents, and you are not required to get recognized from them, or you are not required to get any NOCs from them. You are self-certifying that everything and all that I will do in my startup will be according to the guidelines and the rules and regulation that has been decided by the Government of India. This actually, this concept of self-certification will decrease all the regularities, all the regularity of, you can say, the difficulties which come when you go to these offices. You have to wait for a long time. There are these processing charges, high processing charges. Then you have to wait for many days, once till you can get the NOC. So no, there is no requirement of such thing. You can self-certify. Yeah, after you are established as a startup, after you start gaining the profit, yeah, there will be inspections and they will scrutinize all the data that you have provided in that you have provided to them. So self-certification is the first action plan. Second action plan is in which there is establishment of the Startup India Hub. Okay, so it's also known as All India Startup Innovation Hub. So this All India Startup Innovation Hub under the Atal Innovation Mission, the objective of this hub is to handhold the startups. It's a single contact point for the startup founders and the entrepreneurs, wherein they can connect with each other, they can collaborate with each other, and they can synergize the whole things of the startup ecosystem. So if you just ask me, till now by 2020, this is the figure as per the December 2020 period, is that this Startup India Innovation Hub has solved the queries of 1,14,000 people, startups. Okay, I mean individuals who are planning to start up, not the established startup, but who are planning to start up. So they have solved 1,14,000 queries with different medias like telephone or emails or Twitter. Not only that, Incubation Hub has also mentored more than 660 startups. So they are actually startups now. So 660 startups have been mentored, they have been handholded by this incubation hub. There is also a launch of online incubation hub, wherein you can have an online platform for interaction, and there are 2.7 lakh users who are registered in this online innovation hub. It really doesn't matter if you want to start the startup or not, you can anyways get registered. You will get a pool of information, because it's quite interactive and bi-directional type of interaction takes place in this online platform. So this is about the innovation hub. You also have a Atal Innovation Mission. Again, it's established to boost the innovation and the startup ecosystem. And in the Atal Innovation Missions, you have two components. One is the tinkering labs, and second are the incubators. Right? Tinkering labs are established already. 5,000 tinkering labs have been established across India in many schools, and there the Niti Aayog, they have identified 5,441 more schools who will also get the tinkering lab facilities. Second is when we talk about the incubators. So you have this Atal Incubation Center. Okay, Atal Incubation Center, AIC, and this AIC comes under the Atal Innovation Mission. So in this, you have two types of AIC. The one, some private or public sector companies or institutions or organization, they might approach the Niti Aayog, and then the Niti Aayog will fund them, and they will establish the Atal Incubation Center in their premises, in their building. And second, there are already existing incubation centers who have to scale up. Scale up means they have to increase their facilities, they have to increase their operations. So government is not only encouraging the new incubation centers under the AIC, but also they are scaling up the existing incubation centers. And if you just total it, government has right now released 54 crore rupees to 22 incubators which are new, and government has also identified few existing incubation centers who have been allotted 10 crore rupees for 4 years, 4 continuous years. So this is how Atal Innovation Mission is working. The third is the single window clearance. What does this single window clearance means? You have a single online portal, you have a mobile application, you don't have to go anywhere, you just register yourself on the DPIIT, the website, and then it will be a kind of single window clearance. So it's very easy for you to do the things when you get started up. Next action plan, in which they have given three type of tax benefits. The first type of tax benefit is that the startup is not required to pay the income tax for 3 years out of the 10 years. Any 3 years the startup will be exempted from paying the income tax. First tax benefit. Second tax benefit is that under the section 54, okay, of the Income Tax Act, if suppose you have a long-term capital asset, okay, some shares, or if suppose you have a house, or if you have a land of means plot, land which you can sell, residential plot, I'm saying. So if suppose you sell it, no, so whatever money you earn from the sale of the house or the asset or the land, out of the whole money you have to pay 20% as the capital gain tax. Okay, so if suppose you sell your bungalow for 1 crore rupees, you will have to pay 20 lakh rupees to the income tax department as a capital gain tax. But under this action plan, if you are going to invest this amount, the sale amount, in the equity of any startup, or you are going to start your own startup, then you would not be required to pay a single rupee. You are not required to pay any 20 lakh or anything like that, and that limit is up to 50 lakh. That limit of capital gain exemption, tax exemption, is up to 50 lakh. So this is the second tax benefit. Third tax benefit is that you will not be required to pay the angel taxes. Angel taxes are the taxes which are on and above the market values. So these are the three types of tax benefits that has been given under the Startup India. The startup will also be free from mystifying inspection for 3 years. No inspection till 3 years. You just work, you just grow. Once you grow, we will come for the inspection. This is what government is saying, right? And apart from that, a very fast track system has been established for the patent applications and the IPR protections. There is also a provision wherein the facilitators have been recognized by the government. I don't exactly remember the number of facilitators, but if I am not wrong, it is 427 facilitators for the patent and the design area, and I think more than 600, I don't remember, but 600 something for the trademark. Okay, so they have these facilitators. They will give you free legal advice and free legal assistance. Just imagine free, because these legal assistant and legal advices are very, very expensive. So they will give you free of cost. Next, if suppose you apply for the patent, you are also eligible, means the startup is also eligible for 80% rebate in the patent and 50% rebate in the trademark. So whatever application fee you have given, 80% will come back to you if it is a patent, and 50% will come back to you if it is a trademark. So this is how they have also the government has also given a very sturdy support as far as the intellectual property rights are concerned. So they have an immense IPR support. Next is government realizes that there should be a conducive environment. I mean, you have experience, already established companies and entrepreneurs. They should not be able to take the undue advantages of the new startups, and that is the reason why government of India has significantly, I mean to say, they have relaxed and they have simplified the public procurement norms and the trade norms. Okay, and it comes under the MSME department, Ministry for the medium and small and micro scale enterprises. So MSME department has literally simplified all the procurement norms. So anybody who starts up, he will be recognized by the government. Not only that, he will have a very proper channel through which he can execute his business. So this is about the public procurement norms. Next action plan is fund of funds. Government has conceptualized and it has dedicated, they have dedicated 10,000 crore rupees, which is called as the funds of fund, and this 10,000 crore rupees, it is managed by the SIDBI. Okay, Small Industrial Development Bank of India. It's a big bank, and generally this bank is undertaking of government, and they look after these funds which are generated by the government, which is used for the public. So this SIDBI is regulating all these funds. Not only that, you also have NCGTC, that is the National Credit Guarantee. For, I don't remember the full form of NCGTC, but it is something related with the National Credit Guarantee. I think tax commission company or something like that, and they are providing 500 crore rupees per year. So it will be like an icing on the cake. You have already 10,000 crore rupees with the government, which is solely used for the startup, and then every year they'll be adding 500 crore every year, and the whole amount of money, the whole amount of fund, it has to be used by 2025, because in 2025 two financial commission cycles will come to an end. Okay, so still there are 4 years, and out of the 10,000 crore fund of funds, SIDBI has already disbursed 600 crore rupees to the startups. So still a very large amount of money is there with the government, and government is willing to give you. The thing only is that we have to have the startup. So this is about the action plan of startup. Last is, suppose unfortunately you are not able to make it, or you face some difficulties. Government will make sure that government will give you an easy way out. Easy winding up provision is also there in the action plan, so that personal loss should be minimized as possible. And so the government is making so much of effort. Sorry. Last is, there are 5 lakh schools who have targeted 10 lakh children, and these 10 lakh children, they have the innovation program which is introduced by the government of India to imbibe the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship right from the childhood. So this is the whole action plan of Startup India. Having said that, there is a in January 2019, a list was released of most startup friendly countries in the world, and you can see here India stood 5th rank. India stood on the 5th rank, but in mere 2 years India has right now become the 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world, and it is also expected to witness year-of-year growth of consistent annual growth of 12 to 15%, which is very high. Okay, and till now, as of December 23, 2020, which was tabled in the parliament on the same day, Government of India has recognized 41,061 startups total, which has created 4,70,000 jobs. So on an average, a single startup has the ability, the capacity to create 10 to 12 jobs per startup. The number may vary, but then it's on an average. So India has now become the 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world. When we talk about the ecosystem, we know that government is they are trying their level best to build the whole environment wherein innovation, entrepreneurship, it can flourish, and more creative startups can come into existence. And for that, there is a whole startup ecosystem that has got established, not only established, but it is working in collaboration with each other, in cooperation with each other, and they are synergizing with each other to potentiate, to augment the whole scenario of the market. So when we talk about the startup ecosystem, it's all about the people. There are different people, there are different startups in various stages Okay, then there are different organizations, and these organizations in the startup ecosystem, they have various functions, specific functions. However, they are all functioning to get a single objective being fulfilled, that is the startup should bloom, right? So these startup ecosystem, you have universities, and the students, they are students and faculties, they are working on the ideas, they are conceptualizing the ideas, and they are trying to come up with the great ideas through R&D. You have research organizations like R&D centers, or you are having CROs. They are also every now and then they are coming up with something which is innovative, right? Apart from that, you have some service providers, support organization, funding organizations. We know funding organizations like venture capitalists, or there are few crowd raising funds, or there are few government schemes. So all these are funding organizations. If I talk about the support organizations, you have great support organization. All the ministries which are dealing with the startup, they are support organizations. The government of India itself is a big support organizations. Apart from that, you have incubators, you have accelerators. So all these, they are the support organizations. You have some service providers, that might be legal service providers, or some financial service providers, or managerial service provider, or some production related service providers. So again, you have these organizations as well. Then you have some big companies which is known as the corporate connect. So they also are investing, and they are also mentoring the startups. Let me give you one example. The Facebook has just partnered with the startup, and it has already dispersed $50,000 to the top 5 startups in India. And there is another another MNC, which is known as the Goldman Sachs, which has identified a few of the women entrepreneurs around the world, and they are providing them the business and management related education free of cost, and they will also help them in the startup. So this is how the overall ecosystem is working in collaboration to each other, right? See, this much is happening. Okay, still startups are failing. Why the startups are failing? Because if you just if you just list out what are the 10 mistakes that startups do, there are these 4 broad areas. One is the marketing mistake, second is the team problems, third is the funding, and fourth is the regulations, right? First, the marketing mistake. If you just see this graph, this pie chart, you will observe that building something that nobody wants, you build a product, you give a service which is not required by the customer, then your startup is going to fail. That is the first marketing mistake. That is, and by far it is the most commonest and most dangerous type of mistake that a startup can do, building something that nobody wants. Then next is, you fail to execute the sales and marketing. You think that your startup is your product is so good or so charming that you don't require any marketing. No, this is incorrect notion. You have to have more studies and more work as far as the sales and marketing is concerned. Third mistake is that this startup, they are more into chasing the investor. They don't chase the customer. If you want to have a startup which will be sustainable, it is really very important for you to chase the customers, because customer are going to give you the money ultimately when your startup starts. So that is the reason, third reason. And fourth reason, generally startup, they ignore the social media. It's not the problem right now, but that is the reason why WhatsApp has told us to sign an agreement that they would share our personal likings and unlikings with the Facebook, and Facebook accordingly will post some advertisement according to what is our preference. So the social media has become so much powerful, powerful these days that startup has to make sure that they are well recognized in the social media. They're floating on the social media. So these are the marketing mistakes. If I talk you about the team mistake, hiring poor, you are not able to scout a very good team for your startup, then your startup is going to end. There are few people in your organization, in your team, who lack the focus. That, like, just read the top, I mean, points which I have written. Okay, so they lack the focus, so that also will lead to this, that is also considered as the startup mistake. Then sometimes it happens that I have found the startup, why do I require the co-founder? No, co-founders should be there in your startup who will willingly take all the responsibilities as well as all the difficulties that you will face eventually in the future with the startup. So having the co-founder, sorry, not having the co-founder is the startup mistake that is also there. Third type of mistake is related with the funding. So these days it might not be a problem because government is giving the fund, but unfortunately very few people few people know how these funds are to be procured, right? So they fail to ask for the help. They don't ask, like, I want the money, who will give you? I want the money, I want the help from the government, what should I do? So failing to ask for the help is another funding mistake. Not only that, previously when Startup India was not in the existence, people used to go to some funding agencies which had a very high interest rate. Even some banks were also giving the loan which was at the high interest rate. So the startup, they are more interested in collecting the money, but the objective of the startup is not collecting the money, but to convert that money into extra revenue generation. If you are taking 100 rupees from an investor, and if you could not earn 1000 rupees, it's of no use. So that is another problem with the funds. Next is spending too much money where you don't require to spend. So money management and difficulty or problem in the money management can be considered as the startup mistake. And last is the startup mistake is related to the regulation. But believe me, regulation constraint is not at all the startup mistake now these days, because government has made everything so seamless. Okay, that is the reason this has completely come down. This particular area has completely come down. So these are the top 10 startup mistakes that startups do, and this is probably the reason why out of 190% startups will fail. There are only few startups which will bloom. Next is when we talk about the fundings, biggest question which we face and which startups face is, where do the funds come from? How much fund should I raise? What are the relevant sources for the finance for me? And how much equity should I give? How should I discuss the equities with the investors, right? What should be the right structure and instrument? So out of all the questions related to the fundraising, what I think is this particular question, that is, what are the relevant sources of the finance for me and how should I prioritize them, is something which is worth to be discussed, right? So when we say how should I prioritize the sources of finance, it really depends on at what stage of the startup you are right now. Depending upon the stage of the startup, you should prioritize your funding. And what are the relevant sources of the finance? There are many relevant sources of the finance. Let us first divide the startup into 3 stages according to the fundings. The first is the pre-seed funding. Pre-seed funding means when you have an idea and you want to conceptualize that idea. Second is the seed stage, that is the validation stage, when you go for the proof of concept. And third is the traction and scaling up stage, wherein you have already the startup, you have to sustain it and you have to grow more and more. So these are the 3 broad areas wherein you will be requiring different type and different amount of the funding. For the first type of stage of the startup, that is the pre-seed funding, pre-seed stage. So that pre-seed stage means your idea is still, you have idea, you want to try to conceptualize the idea, and that is the reason you would require some fund, but that number of fund, the amount of fund will be very less, and that is the reason why you only have limited sources from which you can get the money, and you have kind of, you know, informal channels of funding. You can go for the bootstrapping. Then in the pre-seed stage, you can go for the bootstrapping. What is bootstrapping? Self funding. Whatever savings you have, okay, whatever revenue you have generated till that, you just use for the startup, for conceptualizing your idea. So that is known as the bootstrapping. You can also ask your family and friends if they want to contribute in your startup, I mean your idea. Or you can also have the pitching events. Pitching events means, you know, there are some organizations and there are some bodies, they conduct different type of competitions and campaigns, and then they give you the prize money. If that prize money might not be very large, but it is good enough to start the conceptualization of the idea. So first is the pre-seed stage, wherein you require some amount of fund, right? Second is the crowdfunding. Crowdfunding means it is the practice of funding a project or venture by raising many small amounts of money from a large number of people. You might have heard about, you know, Milap and I think Keto. All these are the crowdfunding platforms, and you must have seen in the the social media that XYZ person is suffering from this disease, and we want you to contribute to for the treatment of his disease. So this is one example of crowdfunding. In context to startup also, there are these crowdfunding platforms which help you to generate the revenues. And more of, if you compare crowdfunding, it is like the mutual funds. In the mutual funds, what you do, you invest a fixed amount of money, you sit back and rest, and you just wait that when that mutual fund will give you a handsome interest. The same thing happens in the crowdfunding. There are many people who are contributing small amounts of money, and then you get a large amount for your startup. So what are the popular crowdfunding sites, like, you know, Indiegogo or Wishberry, Keto, and Fundline and all are the crowdfundings. Next come the angel investors. So crowdfunding angel investor come under the which stage? Seed stage, wherein you have to do the MVP, minimum viable product, or you have to do the proof of concept, wherein you would require some amount of money. Next is the angel investors. These angel investors, they invest in potential upcoming startups, and you know, they all are business minded people. They are business minded people. They will not take any interest from the money that they have invested. What they will say, they will rather say that you give us the equity shares in your company, in your startup, and through the equity shares, they will earn the money. And these equity shares, you know, they are charging as high as 30% or more than 30%. So actually it is kind of partnership, no, because they are taking a high amount of equity shares of your startup. But we should also not forget that Google, Yahoo, Alibaba like companies, they are the result of the angel investors. Why? Because these angel investors not only invest the money in your startup, but they will also guide you to grow your business, because if you grow, they will grow. That is the simple fundamental principle behind the angel investors. You can see here in the slide, there are many organizations like Unacademy, Crownate, or Wittyfield. There are some individual angel investors like Mr. Ratan Tata or Vijay Shekhar Sharma. Ratan Tata, just now we have seen that Mumbai wala boy. So Mr. Ratan Tata is the angel investor for his startup. You have Sachin Bansal of the Flipkart. So this is how angel investors work. Next is, you can also get the funds from business incubators and accelerators. Again, this fund will be for the validation or the seed stage of your startup. Incubators and accelerators, they will not only nurture your business, but they will also help you, and sometimes they will themselves contribute you financially, so that you can have a look, you can have a you can have the required financial, I mean the required amount you can have, and then you can progress with your startups. So some popular names of incubators and accelerators are Amity Innovation Incubator, Angel Prime, Startup Village, and T Labs, and all these are some few examples. Next is government programs. Okay, we just have seen the fund of funds of rupees 10,000 crore. There are some schemes of the government as well, like the Prime Minister Mudra scheme and the Prime Minister CGTMA scheme. And these schemes, they have in total, they have 20,000 crore rupees with them, which they want to disperse. But the only difference between the 10,000 fund of fund and these Mudra and CG TMSC is that, you know, they will more act as an investor, but the 10,000 crore rupees, which are the fund of funds, they will be more like mentors, mentors for you. So this is the only difference. However, both of them, they are the government programs. Then comes the scaling up or the traction stage. So what is the scaling up? That you already have launched your product and you are already in the market, but you want to grow in the market. You want to increase the product portfolios. Okay, product offering you want to increase. Or let's say you want to expand the geographies. You want to expand your business to wide varieties of places or countries. Or you want to generate more and more revenue. So in that case also you require some fund. So there are these two options when you want the fund at the last stage of the scaling stage. First is known as the venture capitalist. Venture capitalists are the most professionally managed funds who invest in the companies that have huge potential to grow. Okay, and generally they also have investment in the form of equity shares. However, their equity share demand is less as compared to the angel investors, first thing. And second thing, the major difference is that the venture capitalists, they will usually invest in the business equity, and they will get exited when either the startup goes public, that is they will release the IPO, or they will get acquitted, they will get acquired by some larger company. Because when you start a startup, you have only two options. Either you can grow and you yourself can become a giant company, or you get acquired by a giant company. So if any one of these happens, venture capitalist will exit from the funding scenario. Some of the well-known venture capitalists in India are what you can see on the slides, like Helicon Venture, Excel Partners, Bloom Ventures, and all of them. Last is the IPO, which is called as the initial public offering. Okay, so initial public offering means transition of the startup from the public, from the private to the public. So they get listed on the you can say the market. Okay, the stock market for the very first time. So right till now they were private. Okay, but now they will get listed on the stock market and they will become public. So whenever any company they release the IPO, it has two advantages. First advantage is that the credibility of the startup is going to increase significantly, and second advantage is that whosoever has invested in the IPO, in most of the IPO, if you say, they will exit with a very handsome amount of profit, right? So bi-directional advantages is there when the startup goes for the IPO, and then they can generate the revenues with the I mean, sorry, they can generate the funds with these IPOs. Let me give you some examples of the recent IPOs which has made people earn a lot of money. Rosari Biotech was recent IPO. There was IPO of Burger King, then Happiest Mind. These are the three recent IPOs who gave a very good return to the stakeholders or the investors who invested in these IPOs. So these are the sources of funds for your startups, right? This is the last discussion we will, I'll just tell you. First is that, the whole market is changing. The whole scenario is changing because you have something which is known as startup ecosystem. You have a 35% of Indian population who are young people. You have massive funding opportunities. Not only that, you also have consolidation activities going on in every nook and corner of our country. And most important, you have a very good bargaining domestic market. So what I feel is that in few years from now, there will be a significant change in the way right now the market is being operated. So with this is the last slide. If I tell you whatever we have discussed, we can gain or we can understand now that these are the 5 essential elements of the success. First is the idea, second is the team, business model, funding, and fifth is the timing. If you have all these 5 essential elements, no one can stop you from being successful. With this, I just want to say that change is very inevitable for the life, because whenever we change, there is something good that will happen, and it is also the fact that change is the only constant. So with this last slide, I wish that every one of us start changing our perspective of life, start to change our thinking, and eventually some of us should come up with some good ideas which can get converted into something good, which will be helpful for our nation as a whole. With these words, I will conclude my session. Thank you so much for listening patiently. I'm just a minute. I'll just unshare my screen. Yeah, I have unshared my screen, Vandana ma'am.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Could you please make Preeti as a presenter, because she has to share
Madam, I
something.
have already made her. I have made her, madam.
Okay. Okay. So, thank you, Dr. Deshmukh, for giving nitty-gritty on the topic startup today. That includes problem validation, ideation linkages with knowledge and creativity, niche market analysis, the government initiatives on startups with apt examples and explanations. So our idea of organizing this lecture series on innovation, incubation, and startup to make all of us familiar with all the facets of innovation and startup ecosystem that we would like to build at our campus. So to nurture, flourish in this vertical in long run, we would have a foundation to build upon it. And I hope these 3 lectures on topics of innovation, incubation, and startup had laid a strong foundation to move forward. So before concluding, I would like to announce that all participants should fill the feedback form and quiz, and all the participants having a score of more than 60% will get an e-certificate of participation. The link for the same will be shared soon. Before concluding this session, we have to pay tribute to Srimati Kashibai Naule on her death anniversary today. I request Principal Sir to share his view on this occasion. Sir, over to you. Um, hello, Aishwarya ma'am. You
Yes,
have
ma'am.
to unmute Sawan sir, please.
I
Just
can't
2
see
minutes, sir.
Sawant sir.
He's there, Professor. Just see. Just a minute.
Just a minute, ma'am. I'm seeing. Please wait.
Um, okay, sir.
By what name he is? Sir is
No,
by what
he's
name, ma'am?
unmuted, sir. Principal,
Ma'am,
sir.
search professor, ma'am.
No, but like
But
he can do now. Unmute.
PROF dot.
I can't see, sir. Priyanka, madam, you are also presenter. Can you
No,
please
I have
unmute,
made.
sir?
He can unmute
No,
himself.
ma'am.
Like I can do.
I can't unmute, sir, ma'am. Ma'am, search PROF. Type PROF. Sir will be there in attendees.
Yeah. Just a minute. PROF, क्या? Okay, एक minute.
Sir will be there in attendees.
It's saying we couldn't find any match.
But I can see type PROF.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, I can
He's
see
there.
that he can unmute himself.
I mean, is something before PROF something some symbol or something like that?
PROF, Dr. S.D. Sawant. It is like that only. But right now even I'm searching, but I am unable to see.
Hello.
Aishwarya ma'am, just
Actually, I have made him presenter.
Sorry, what? Sorry.
Now I can. Now
Trupti,
I can.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible
Okay, I
now?
have made him presenter, so I think.
Yeah. I think I have unmuted myself now.
Yeah,
Okay.
sir, we can't see you. Yeah, we can see you now. Yes, sir.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Very much.
At the outset, let me thank Aishwarya madam for her, very comprehensive, very detailed presentation. And I think with these three talks of Dr. Arpana Patil, Dr. Mrs. Meenal Ghante and Dr. Aishwarya Deshmukh, I think our students have got almost complete view of innovation, incubation and startup. So I think with these kind of efforts, initiatives, activities, our innovation ecosystem is going to be strengthened further, and probably we would be able to get better outcomes in years to come. So thank you so much, Vandana madam, also for organizing these activities. अच्छा, आता आपण आपल्या महाविद्यालयाचे रादर आपल्या सिंहगड संस्थेचे संस्थापक अध्यक्ष आदरणीय प्राध्यापक नवले सर, त्यांच्या मातोश्री आणि ज्यांचं नाव आपल्या महाविद्यालयाला दिलेलं आहे त्या श्रीमती काशीबाई नवले यांच्या तिथीप्रमाणे येणाऱ्या पुण्यतिथीच्या निमित्त त्यांना आदरांजली, त्यांच्या प्रती आदर व्यक्त करण्याकरता आपण हा छोटासा ऑनलाईन कार्यक्रम घेतलाय. खरं तर लास्ट इयर सुद्धा आपला लॉकडाऊन होता याच पिरियडमध्ये, आणि त्यामुळे आपण नॉर्मली जो फिजिकली आपण कॉलेजमध्ये हा कार्यक्रम घेतो तो यावर्षी आपल्याला गेल्या वर्षी घेता आलेला नाही आणि याही वर्षी आपल्याला फिजिकली घेता आला नाही, म्हणून आपण ऑनलाईन माध्यमातून सर्वजण एकत्र या कार्यक्रमाच्या निमित्ताने जमलेलो आहोत. खरं तर आपल्या आईचं महत्त्व हे कुणालाही वेगळं सांगायची काही खरं गरज नसते. प्रत्येक व्यक्तीला, मग ते लहान वयात असू देत किंवा वयाच्या 70व्या 80व्या वर्षी असू देत, आपल्या आईची महती आणि महत्त्व, तिचं कंट्रीब्युशन हे खूप लेखकांनी, खूप मोठ्या व्यक्तींनी वेगवेगळ्या माध्यमातून व्यक्त केलेलं आहे. पण नवले सरांची पद्धत व्यक्त करण्याची थोडीशी वेगळी आहे, आणि ती म्हणजे कृतीतून व्यक्त करण्याची आहे. ते फारसे बोलत नाहीत, पण त्यांचं खरं प्रेरणास्थान जे आहे ते म्हणजे त्यांच्या आई श्रीमती काशीबाई नवले. आणि म्हणूनच जेव्हा साधारणतः 15 वर्षापूर्वी SKN मेडिकल कॉलेज म्हणजे मेडिकल कॉलेज वैद्यकीय महाविद्यालय सिंहगड संस्थेचं इस्टॅब्लिश करायची वेळ आली, तेव्हा त्यांनी आपल्या आईचं नाव मेडिकल कॉलेजला आणि हॉस्पिटलला दिलं. तुम्ही बघाल प्रत्येक सिंहगडच्या प्रत्येक कॅम्पसमध्ये एक तरी महाविद्यालय असं आहे की ज्याचं नाव ज्या त्या महाविद्यालयाला श्रीमती काशीबाई नवले यांचं नाव दिलेलं आहे. आणि म्हणून नवले सरांची त्यांच्या प्रती आदरांजली व्यक्त करण्याची पद्धत ही अशा पद्धतीने आहे की ज्यामुळे त्यांचं नाव हे चिरकाल अनंत वर्ष असंच पुढे राहील आणि त्यांच्या स्मृती आपल्या मनामध्ये कृतीच्या माध्यमातून त्यांच्या नावाच्या माध्यमातून पुढे कंटिन्यू करता येतील. अत्यंत प्रतिकूल परिस्थितीमध्ये जेव्हा नवले सर लहान होते तेव्हा त्यांचे वडील एक्सपायर झाले आणि मग त्यांच्या आई म्हणजे श्रीमती काशीबाई नवले यांनी त्यांच्या घराचा सगळा गाडा ओढला. ग्रामीण भागामध्ये अत्यंत हालाकीच्या परिस्थितीमध्ये त्यांनी हे सगळं कुटुंब पुढे आणलं आणि नवले सरांनी च्या कष्टामागचं त्यांच्या सिंहगड संस्था स्थापन करण्यामागचं खरं प्रेरणास्थान हे श्रीमती काशीबाई नवले आहेत, त्यांच्या आई आहेत. आणि म्हणून आपण सर्वजण या माध्यमातून त्यांच्या ह्या प्रेरणास्थानापासून आपण ही काही स्फूर्ती घ्यावी, प्रेरणा घ्यावी आणि आपलं आयुष्य, आपलं करिअर हे उज्ज्वल करावं. आणि त्याबरोबरच तुम्ही तुमचे आई बाबा असतील किंवा अजून तुमचे प्रेरणास्थान असतील त्यांच्याकडून आपण हा प्रेरणेचा स्रोत सदैव घेऊन आपल्या जीवनामध्ये उत्तरोत्तर प्रगती करावी आणि त्यांच्या प्रती कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करावी. आणि ही कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करण्याकरता आणि त्यांच्या प्रती आदरांजली व्यक्त करण्याकरता आपण या ठिकाणी जमलेलो आहोत. सर्व महाविद्यालयाच्या म्हणजे श्रीमती काशीबाई नवले फार्मसी महाविद्यालय, आपलं महाविद्यालय, सिंहगड संस्था येथील सर्व शिक्षक, शिक्षकेतर कर्मचारी आणि विद्यार्थी या सर्वांच्या वतीनं मी त्यांच्या प्रती आदरांजली व्यक्त करतो, आदरांजली वाहतो, श्रद्धांजली अर्पण करतो आणि त्या आमच्यासाठी सदैव एक प्रेरणास्रोत म्हणून सदैव राहतील अशा प्रकारची अपेक्षा व्यक्त करतो, इच्छा व्यक्त करतो, ईश्वर चरणी अशा प्रकारची प्रार्थना करतो आणि या ठिकाणी मी थांबतो. धन्यवाद. ओव्हर टू यू वंदना मॅडम.
Hello. Yeah. So before concluding, all the participants are requested to switch on their cameras so that we can take the photos. Yeah, please. Trupti, is it possible to take the photos? Because from my end, I am unable to do that. Can you please do?
अनम्यूटच होत नाही आहे.
You are unmuted, Trupti.
Priyanka, is it possible for you to take the photos?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please take. Okay, have you taken? So,
I taken, ma'am.
okay, thank you. So So before ending, I would like to thank all the participants, all the faculty members, and Sawant sir. And now we can conclude the session.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye, sir. Bye, everyone.
Bye.